Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you, Gordon, for the generous introduction, or as my mother would say, for telling all those lies about me. It's really important to be here with you in the Windsor Essex Chamber of Commerce, Invest Windsor Essex, and the Canadian Tooling and Machining Association. And I mean, it's really good to be here with you. It's a theme I'm going to return to momentarily. I want to acknowledge, of course, the municipal, provincial, and federal leaders who are here with us, the partners, along with the business leaders, the manufacturers, the entrepreneurs, and the community builders who continue to drive growth and innovation across this region. I want to take a moment to say thank you, particularly thank you to Senator Sandra Cupertella. Since her arrival in the Senate, Sandra is relentless, unstoppable, a force for good for your region. And she works with all sides of the House, which is the way forward. And thank you, Senator, for helping pull all this together and make this possible. It's good to see you all this morning, and I mean by that literally see you all, because recently I had my eye operated on. I couldn't see out of my right eye. And 2 days after the surgery, I called my wife into the bathroom and said, I think I'm having a problem with my eye. She came rushing in saying, is it okay? Is there something wrong? Is it bleeding? I said, no. I said, I've been looking in the mirror, and I said, I looked in the mirror, I pointed to the mirror and I said, can you tell me, where do all those wrinkles come from? So she slapped me. I want to recognize a few of the larger companies that contribute significantly to Canada's defence and security. We're joined here today by General Dynamics Land Systems, Boeing, Bombardier, CAE, and GM Defence. Thank you for making the time to be with us. It's important. I also want to take a moment to recognize serving members, past and present, of the Canadian Armed Forces here with us today. If there's anything I've learned in the last year on this job, it's that the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Coast Guard, which is now part of the defence family, are simply second to none. I say that having had the chance to meet with 15,000 members of the forces on 15 different bases, and perhaps meeting, more importantly, comparatively, some 25 other countries and their leadership and their forces. Canada's forces, Canada's Coast Guard family is second to none. I want to begin by saying Windsor Essex has a special place in Canada's military history. We're steps away from the Dieppe Park, which commemorates the enormous sacrifice this community made during the Dieppe raid. We can't and we won't forget these things. Windsor Essex has also been one of Canada's most important industrial regions. But the last few years, let's be honest, have been hard. The auto industry that built this region has been living with volatility, supply chain shocks, and now a wave of tariffs that has landed squarely on Windsor. For generations, the companies, the manufacturers, and the skilled workforce here have been building the products and technologies that drive the Canadian economy. You've carved out a reputation for excellence in manufacturing and engineering. But there is one quality that distinguishes you, and that is your ability to adapt. And that ability to adapt is crucial today. The same skills that made Windsor Essex a manufacturing powerhouse are the same skills Canada now needs to strengthen our defence and our sovereignty. Canada is entering a new era of defence and security investment, and communities like Windsor Essex have an important role to play in helping our country meet the challenges ahead. And they are significant. The world has become more dangerous and increasingly unpredictable. As I like to say, it's a rough and tumble place out there. We need all the friends we can get and all the friends we can keep. We see Russia's aggression continuing to threaten peace and stability in Europe. 4 years ago, to set things in context for you, 25% of the Russian economy, 25%, focused on military industrial production. Today, 65% of Russia's economy focuses on military industrial production. Canadians increasingly understand that our geography can no longer protect us. We saw during the Iranian war, which continues and persists, that the Iranian authorities were able to deploy a missile which traveled over 5,000 kilometers. Even though they had sworn up and down for 25 years, they had no such missile in their arsenal. There is a growing interest and activity by our adversaries in our Canadian Arctic. Technology is changing warfare faster than at any point in recent history. The truth is that supply chains, trade routes, and critical industries, can become strategic vulnerabilities almost overnight. Canada is doing what it has not done in generations. We are rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in our Canadian Armed Forces. We began with a major pay increase for the women and men for the CAF, the first since 1997. And let's remember this: serving members have no collective bargaining and no right to strike. When they're asked to go, they go. When they're asked to do, they do. And we are investing from the bottom up. New housing, 7,500 units across the country. New infrastructure, water, wastewater, and beyond. Expanded electrification. Most of our bases don't have enough electricity. Wi-Fi at our bases. When I started a year ago, 26 of the 33 bases we had in this country had no Wi-Fi. We're addressing that. That'll be completed very shortly. New kit, women's uniforms, rifles, ammunition, generators, new ships, new submarines, new aircraft, new armored vehicles, new strength in space and cyber. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We've got a lot of work to do. And we're tackling these one by one, as I say, every morning when we start our day at the office. Today we get up and we hit another single. We get on base and we keep moving forward. Our policy is to execute and operationalize a plan that effectively involves turning around our entire defence infrastructure. Our responsibility is simple. Let's ensure the women and men who serve Canada have the equipment, the training, and the support they need to succeed. Canada is now investing 2% of our GDP in defence. And alongside our NATO allies, we've committed to 5% by 2035. We're well on our way to achieving our 3.5% spend by 2029, as all NATO allies have committed to doing. This is not only about spending more, it's about capability, it's about readiness, it's about sovereignty and security, and about building the industrial strength we need here at home. Because military capability doesn't begin on the battlefield. It begins in our factories. It begins in our research labs, in our classrooms, and in companies like yours. In a more dangerous world, the ability to build and sustain and modernize our own military at home is a strategic advantage. It's also an economic advantage. That's why our government only very recently introduced Canada's first ever defence industrial strategy. It starts from a simple idea, an obvious proposition. National security and economic security are intertwined. In fact, they're inseparable. That means, in the case of Canada, more than $500 billion in defence activity over the next decade. That's right, over $500 billion will be invested in defence activity over the next decade in Canada. Our plan helped to create 125,000 new jobs in the defence sector, increase defence exports by 50% by 2035. Just last week, I had the privilege of co-leading for the first time, Minister of Defence co-led a 300-person business delegation to Japan, the largest delegation to Japan in Canadian history, the second largest ever undertaken by our country, with almost 50 defence companies participating. Unbelievable reception. The Canadian flag is not only a door opener, it's a brand. It speaks to a country that says what it means and means what it says. And let me assure you, in the globe out there today, that's rare. People are looking for like-minded, values-driven democracies that trust each other. And Japan is one of those countries. And when we shared those numbers, those expenditures, and those targets, we made sure that our Japanese colleagues understood, as I'm hoping you will understand this morning, that those expenditures, and those numbers, and those targets are real. But let me make it even more concrete and bring it closer to home. Ontario already has the largest defence workforce in the country. More than 300 defence companies generate over $5 billion in revenue every year. And the sector supports tens of thousands of highly skilled jobs. And let me let you in on a little secret that most people aren't aware of. The Department of National Defence, the Canadian Armed Forces, and the Canadian Coast Guard combined are the fourth largest employer in Ontario, with 53,000 jobs. In the last fiscal year, we spent $10.5 billion in Ontario, and we're just getting warmed up. What I'm saying is that defence is a major economic generator in every part of this country. So when we invest $850 million in Trenton, the airbase there, to receive our new Husky refueling aircraft, we create 1,200 jobs for 5 years. We're measuring this. We're reporting on this. HVAC jobs, concrete jobs, engineering, design, carpeting, roofing, framing, you name it. We're having a bearing on it right around the country. When I sat with Premier Smith from Alberta and explained to her that we're investing $10 billion in Alberta in the next 4 years, she didn't believe it. Until we explained to her, it's true, we're putting $4 billion into Cold Lake, $1 billion in Medicine Hat to be able to do advanced research. This is happening right around the country, right around Ontario as well. On the private sector side, for example, in London, General Dynamics Land Systems works with more than 600 suppliers across Canada, sustaining roughly 13,000 jobs in 100 communities. So it is with our shipbuilding strategy. Mr. Irving tells me that he's got 3,000 employees in Halifax, but 11,000 employees around the country. So does the CEO of the Vancouver shipyards. 6,500 full-time in Vancouver, 11,500 around the country. These are advanced, high-tech, sophisticated ecosystems. There's a place, I'm trying to say, in this effort for businesses of every size. We're backing that commitment with action. Over the next decade, 70% of defense contracts will be going to Canadian firms. On envoie un message clair. Le Canada bâtit sa capacité de défense et la résilience de sa chaîne d'approvisionnement ici, chez nous. Il n'est pas seulement une question d'acheter de l'équipement, il s'agit de bâtir une capacité souveraine et de miser sur l'excellence canadienne. Through this defense industrial strategy, we've introduced a new approach, the build, partner, buy approach. We will prioritize Canadian firms wherever we can. That's why we have 10 core areas in our sovereign capabilities list. We didn't pull this out of a hat. There aren't 3 and there aren't 20. There are 10. We chose 10 deliberately based on our abilities. The Minister of Poland gave me the best advice of all. When Poland inked its second defense industrial strategy, he looked at me and said, as you develop your first, go home and make a decision and decide what it is you want to be when you grow up in this space. And we did. We spoke to 17 countries. We spoke to 2,000 companies and said, how do we get this right? So buying will be our first priority. Building will be our first priority here on Canadian soil. Secondly, we will partner, but we're only partnering with trusted allies. We've named a number of countries like Australia, like Japan, like the European Union in the strategy to be able to rely on folks we trust. Again, democracies, same values, same trust factor. And where we can't partner, we'll buy abroad. We'll buy when necessary from abroad. There are some cases when weapon systems can only be procured, for example, in the United States. We recognize that. The United States is a powerhouse when it comes to military materiel and engineering. We get that. But we're diversifying. We're striking new relationships, new agreements. In the last 10 months, we've signed over 20 new trade and defense agreements around the world. This is an astonishing pace that the Prime Minister is leading. Hard to keep up with, to be frank with you. But we're moving forward, always trying to ensure that any benefits that come from these investments will flow back into the Canadian economy. This is about being a strategic and reliable partner. You know, many of you built your success in tool, die, mold, in automotive manufacturing and automotive supply chains. The standards required in those sectors are demanding. They're tough. They're really tough. They require precision. They require consistency, reliability, and innovation at scale. We understand this. That's exactly what defense supply chains also require. Your companies meet that bar every single day. Your workers meet that bar every single day. For many of you, this is not about reinventing your business. The defense economy reaches far beyond the companies that build tanks and fighter jets. Defense depends on thousands of Canadian businesses supplying everything from advanced software to precision components, logistics, fuel, shoelaces, communication systems, even the Wi-Fi on our bases. The work you are already doing can support the Canadian Armed Forces directly or indirectly. Can a process you already run meet a defense requirement?
Yes.
Can an existing manufacturing capability support a broader supply chain? Those are questions we need to answer. Can technologies developed for automotive also strengthen Canada's defense, aerospace, or critical infrastructure? I'm convinced they can. That's the power of dual-use innovation. Des technologies utilisées à la fois civiles et militaires. Des technologies qui naissent dans un secteur et créent de la valeur dans un autre. Des technologies qui favorisent la croissance commerciale tout en aidant le Canada à satisfaire à ses besoins sur le plan de la défense et la sécurité. Think about robotics, think about AI, think about cybersecurity, think about our top engineering. These are all innovations that help our businesses meet our needs while reinforcing our sovereignty and our security. Here's the point. Many of the capabilities Canada will need in the years ahead already exist within our industrial base. It's about pivoting. Your industrial base right here in Windsor, Essex, which is exceptionally well positioned, can help build the future. Let me now turn to the difficult issue of doing business, defense business, with the federal government. We know entering the defense sector is not easy. Defense comes with its own requirements, including certifications, cybersecurity standards, security clearances, and procurement rules. But we've heard you loud and clear on this front, and what we've heard was right. So we're taking important steps to address this question. We're eliminating the barriers that have kept Canadian companies on the sidelines for too long. We're putting real support behind that commitment. Later on this morning, you're going to hear from officials about our new concierge service and stricter industrial benefits, combined with transparent and improvable Buy Canadian provisions. These opportunities don't stop at Canada's borders. Here are a few other things we're doing to help illustrate that. National Defence is working with partners like the Business Development Bank of Canada. After all, it is our federal crown corporation, your federal crown corporation. It's making up to $6 billion available to support Canadian defence and security firms through financing and advisory services. We're also working with Export Development Canada, your corporation, our corporation, to help local companies reach new markets, and equally important, helping Canada forge new partnerships abroad. You know, 6 months ago, restrictions inside EDC were lifted because at the time, it was not playing in the defense space. It was not helping to finance such deals. I heard from the Executive Vice President from EDC 3 days ago in Tokyo that since those restrictions were lifted, EDC has financed 80 deals to the tune of $1.5 billion. And we're just getting started. We're also part of something called the Security Action for Europe Agreement, or SAFE, A-S-A-F-E. It's an initiative within the European Union. Canadian firms now have access to new opportunities tied to major European defence investments. SAFE provides affordable financing and helps member states work together to purchase defence equipment, and it strengthens Europe's industrial base. Here's the good news. We're the only non-European Union country invited to join this initiative. Many others are knocking on the door and thus far have not been able to enter. We've had the support of a number of Western European countries allowing us to get in and to participate. Why am I telling you this? Here's an illustration of how big this SAFE opportunity is for us going forward. The overall European defence spend on an annual basis by the end of this decade will be between, annually, $970 billion and $1.29 trillion annually. That's a lot of market. That's a lot of opportunity for Canadian companies right here to be able to export your know-how, your products, your engineering, your design, your artificial intelligence, your quantum computing, your cryptography, you name it, it's going to be open to us. You know, our women and men in uniform can't wait years for the capabilities they need today. This expansion is happening now and is happening quickly. And there's a place in it for all of you, all of your companies in this area. Start the conversation today. Talk to the primes in this room. Talk to your associations. Talk to federal officials at Invest Windsor Essex before you leave today. Know this, our door is open. We intend to keep it open. This is not a one-time announcement. It's not a flash in the pan. This is a long-term restructuring. We intend to make of defense one of the top 3 industrial sectors in this country. It's the start of a conversation we want to have with you and keep having as we implement over the next decade. The future defense economy is not going to be built by traditional defense contractors alone. It will be built by the people in rooms like this one, by manufacturers, by engineers and machinists, by entrepreneurs, and by innovators who recognize that the work they already do can contribute to a broader national effort. As young people tell me all the time today, I've signed up for a project, and I ask them what the project is, and their answer is, it's Canada. It's Canada. That's the project we're involved in here. We're strengthening the Canadian Armed Forces, expanding our defense industrial base, supporting our allies abroad, 2,300 members of our personnel in a forward operating location in Latvia, where Canada commands a 14-nation multinational brigade. We've committed for another 3 years to do so. We're improving our procurement processes all the time. We're standing up a new defense investment agency to procure big projects, like the submarine procurement. We're taking that out of the Department of National Defense, out of PSPC, giving it to a fleet-footed, efficient, professionalized group of buyers who will help us achieve these targets more quickly. That's why we were able to go from basically a 3-year process of down selecting from 5 submarine bidders to 2, and we down selected in less than 6 months. I expect a decision forthcoming soon. By the time I believe it's announced, we will have chosen the largest single procurement in Canadian history in less than a year. That's the speed with which we're moving now. That's the speed the Prime Minister insists that we move forward with, given the situation we face. So we're building real momentum. We're moving with urgency because the world has changed. And we all know it. You live here up against a magnificent country, terrific border, long-term agreements, long-term relationships. We will continue to manage our relationship with our largest partner. I want to close by saying a few things. I want to thank the Windsor Essex Chamber of Commerce, Invest Windsor Essex, and the Canadian Tooling and Machining Association for bringing us together. I want to thank all of you who are volunteering behind the scenes, give those extra hours, who care enough to keep this part of this beautiful country moving forward. Thank you to all the companies the large and the small, and the partners in this room. Thank you for everything you do to strengthen this region and our country. Thank you for your risk-taking. Thank you for your entrepreneurship. Thank you for your creativity. Thank you for your drive. Thank you for your innovation. And finally, there are two things I know absolutely for sure as we move forward. First, we're in this together. We are in this together as a country. And second, I am 100% convinced we can compete and we can win. Thank you very much.
For short guys like me. Hi, I'm Louis Yon. I'm the president of the Canadian. And I just wanted quickly, for perspective, that the Windsor Essex region tool, die, and mold sector accounts for over 50% of all tool, die, and mold sold in North America, and actually over 50% in Canada and 25% in North America. And we thank you for being here today, and we're giving you what's called a Turner's Cube. And it's on behalf of the tool, die, and mold companies of this area. I offer you to pull it out and give it a spin so you can show people. This is Robert Cattle's favorite thing.
Shall I?
Yeah. There you go.
It's great. It's fantastic. Well done. Thank you.
Most of them. Please do save them for our B2B session. Some of you in the room have already signed up for those sessions. They will be on the floor in Salon C when we're through here. Panelist, Nick Maroon, Director of Industrial Relations, Analysis and Policy, Assistant Deputy Minister, and Department of National Defense. Nick, could you just stand up? Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Lefebvre, Canadian Army Capability Advisor.
Business community here in the room, but I want to start first by, up here we have a QR code that will take you to a website that my minister referred to that's run by the Defense Concierge Service. So a variety of different links for businesses, funding programs and what have you. But if you go to that website, you'll notice at the very bottom, there'll be a listing of websites, links to where you can find defense procurement opportunities. So I have a question for folks in the room. Who here has heard of Canada Buys? Can I raise my hand? Raise your hand. Oh, okay, good. If you haven't, if you're not familiar with Canada Buys, that's the federal government public tendering system of record. All of our RFPs, requests for information, industry days get posted on that particular site. And I think even if you're working in the tool, die, and mold sector, you're looking to partner with a prime contractor, that's the kind of the ancillary equipment that kind of goes around it. When we buy a new airplane, we're usually buying simulators, training systems to be able to support our pilots to learn how to fly that particular platform. Simulators for our maintainers, so our maintainers know how to maintain that platform properly. Special tooling.
Two. Who's got the first question?
So I guess Windsor Essex, what role do you see our region playing in this new defense shift, and what other regions are you also looking at across the country?
We're looking at every part of the country. Windsor Essex has a deep, deep history, a depth of talent in, for example, in tool and die making. I think about half of North America's concentrated expertise is in this region. Has had a huge bearing on the success of the country, the auto sector and beyond. This is the kind of depth of talent we want to pivot to help us implement our defense industrial strategy. We intend to make of defense one of our top 3 industrial sectors. It's already starting to take hold, and so it's really a pleasure to be here to meet with folks to talk about how these opportunities are unfolding and are available for them.
Minister, who's the market once these companies shift towards defense contracting?
Global. Obviously, our first market, though, is domestic. Here in Canada, we are building what we need in this country to supply our Canadian Armed Forces, the women and men who serve, with the materiel, the equipment that they require to discharge their responsibilities as a modern Canadian Armed Forces. But at the same time, there's a global marketplace. And I spoke about, for example, the European Union marketplace, which we now can participate in as the only non-EU country to have been invited into that system. The marketplace by the end of this decade in Europe alone will be somewhere between 900 billion and $1 trillion a year. So Canada is well positioned to be able to supply our own needs, partner with other countries and other manufacturers, other joint venture, for example, operators, to come onto Canadian soil, and we'll build, we'll partner, and we'll buy what we require as well from other sources if, for example, we're incapable of doing it ourselves. So the marketplace here is both a domestic one, a continental one, and a global one.
Minister, in your podium remarks, you mentioned that it would be a priority for your ministry to deal with friendly countries. Where does the United States fall into that spectrum?
We have a very strong relationship with the United States. We're managing that relationship now. On the defense, security, and intelligence side, that relationship continues. But look, this is about diversifying. This is about expanding our horizons. It's about more bilateral relationships. One of the reasons why we signed over 20 new agreements, trade and defense, over the last 10 months indicates the extent to which Canada is now diversifying. This is a deliberate decision we've made as a country. The world is a big place. We have a lot of what the world wants. I hear this all over the world. We have the people, the education, the engineering, the aluminum, the steel, the water, the electricity, the capabilities. Many countries want to partner with us, and we're beginning to see the effects of that right now.
How quickly are you hoping for these companies to adapt and pivot and start getting these procurement?
They've already started. Many of these companies are aware of where we're going and how we're moving forward. They're beginning to re-examine their engineering processes, their creative entrepreneurship. Once they know what we need, which is another big change in terms of what we've been implementing in the Defence Industrial Strategy, we're going to be much clearer in disclosing to Canada and to Canadians and Canadian businesses what it is we need as a Canadian Armed Forces. That's a new thing for our Canadian Armed Forces and the procurement there. Secondly, we've reformed the entire procurement system so that buying things will be made now more easy, more efficient. People will know how to approach the Government of Canada. They'll know what we're looking to buy. They'll know if they can, for example, work with a partner to be able to stand something else up, to be able to fill the need. So we're already off to the races. I mentioned in my speech that already on the export side, we've seen 80 deals financed in roughly 6 months, worth $1.5 billion by EDC, where 6 months ago we had none, or very, very, very little. So this is a very big breakthrough in terms of showing that this is now beginning to take hold, and the market is actually there.
What do you need to see from businesses here in Windsor, Essex right now to kind of capitalize on this opportunity?
First is a deeper understanding of what we're trying to accomplish on the defense side, what the Defense Industrial Strategy is, how these opportunities are available to every business here in this region, how to pivot, how to connect with the needs of the Canadian Armed Forces, how to understand the magnitude of the Canadian marketplace and the global marketplace. Remember, we have domestic responsibilities, we have continental responsibilities, and we have global responsibilities. And for example, if we end up having a few companies in this region convert their operations to help achieve our defense objectives, they may very well then be well placed to serve the needs, sell their products, their processes, their research, their engineering to any one of the 31 other NATO alliance members. So this is a domestic, continental, and global opportunity for us. And I think right now this is about learning and moving forward.
You mentioned in your keynote address that this isn't about companies pivoting and suddenly producing tanks. What are some of the holes that need to be filled? What are the opportunities that are realistic for these manufacturers?
Lots of opportunities. Ammunition systems, weapons systems, armored vehicles, working with the large prime companies that are already in place. I mentioned GDLS, for example, in London. I mentioned Irving Shipbuilding as an example of a prime company that places a wonderful demand pull into Canadian society. You know, as I mentioned, GDLS has got hundreds of companies working for them as suppliers in an ecosystem to produce the vehicles that we need, both for our own use and for our, for example, use or our export or our contribution to Ukraine. So what we're seeing now is this opportunity for primes to continue to grow, but the small and medium-sized enterprises have an opportunity to fit into an ecosystem, a supply chain. And as we grow with more and more building in Canada, on Canadian soil, there will be more and more opportunities.
Minister, this long-term goal of making defense one of the top 3 industries in the country, what is the time frame for accomplishing that?
We set out with the Defense Industrial Strategy a 10-year roadmap, 2035. We speak about 2035. We have targets, measurable metrics for the next several years, including expenditures. That's why, for example, we're very transparent about achieving the 5% spend, which we've committed to doing with all of our alliance partners at NATO by 2035. So we're laying track for job creation, we're laying track for investments, startups, the Government of Canada procuring 70% of its defence needs from Canadian producers. It's a tall order, but we can do this.
Just one last question. Why now? Why not 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Well, 2 things. The world has changed. The threat landscape has changed. We can no longer assume in Canada that we're protected by our geography. We have malign actors that are with intentions to do malign things to this country, want to divide democracies, want to weaken democracies. We have folks who are showing up in our Arctic. We have all kinds of new tensions which are surfacing. The second reason now is because for the first time Canada's achieved its spend in terms of our NATO targets. And we did it 5 years ahead of the schedule that was put forward by the previous government. And so we have the financing, we have the opportunity now to take that money and invest it, and to take this community, which is deep with talent. And so we're working to harness that ability, have it pivot, have it adjust, and feed into the system. And the third reason is the global market opportunity is significant. It's very different. Europe is now in a different mind space. It realizes that it's got a real challenge on the Ukrainian front with the Russians, who seem not to be willing to cease and desist. And as a result of that, we've made the hard decision of pivoting. This is going to become a big priority for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.